Morning, everybody. Welcome. This is the morning meeting. Sean, Dan, and I will take you through the day. Lots going on, as they say in the television business. The President's United Nations, Jimmy Kimmel's coming back. Kamala Harris's book tour is rollickingly underway. We'll walk you through it all, give our thoughts, and then love to hear from you if you're here on the two-way platform. Please raise your hand. And remember, peace, love, and understanding in all your questions. And no smack in the chat. Dan, you got no smack in the chat on the sleeve of that shirt?
No, we got conversations like no other.
Conversations like that, also applicable. In order to have conversations like no other, please, no smack in the chat. I happen to know there's been a lot of smack in the chat. Not necessarily more than usual, but still a lot. Kamala Harris, as far as I know, has done 2 interviews that have aired so far. One on Rachel Maddow last night, long interview, a shorter one on GMA today. What percentage of the Kamala Harris interviews have you watched?
60%.
60%.
I watched most of Rachel Maddow and caught a little bit of this morning here with.
Yeah. Sean, have you seen any of them? Deuce. Okay, well, I'm going to walk you through them because I've watched them both, and I have strong feelings about them.
I've seen clips, just to be fair, so that I don't sound uninformed.
Understood. You just haven't sitting
just TiVo
drilled through them. A couple things I want to tell you about before we get going, and I'll run through the daybook. First, don't forget tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, special session with David Bahnsen for the two-way community. Go to twoway.tv/TBG right now. Can sign up to talk to David about the economy. He and I will chat a bit, but mostly we'll spend an hour taking your questions on the economy. If you want to make sure you have a slot there, please go to twoway.tv/TBG to join David Bahnsen to ask questions about. You can ask, he's in the personal wealth management business. You can ask him questions about your own situation, but also just in general about the markets, the economy, etc. We look forward to that tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And now, a word from our sponsors today, sponsored by CB Distillery, and the opportunity to get a 25% discount on all their products. Go to cbdistillery.com. This is for if you're having trouble sleeping, if you're dragging during the day because you didn't get a good enough night's sleep the night before. CB Distillery has solutions, help your body with stress, pain after exercise, even for some mood and focus, all with high quality, clean ingredients, no fillers, just their premium CBD. Imagine the possibility of waking up refreshed. 2 million people, more than 2 million people, trust CB Distillery products, and you have an opportunity now to try them out. As I said, 25% off. All you do is go to cbdistillery.com and use the promo code MARK, M-A-R-K. Easy to type, easy to say. cbdistillery.com, promo code MARK, 25% off all their clean, natural products. Give you a chance to sleep better. Try it today. Tell them Dan sent you. Or Mark sent you, either way. All right, the day book. Pretty interesting stuff. While we're on the air, the President of the United States will be headed to the UN. Dan, that's a pretty clean shot from Trump Tower. Just go east and south.
Yeah, and he actually has a tower across the street from it.
He does.
One of the first that he built.
He does. Now, do you know that that's the building Michael Cohen lived in? Kellyanne Conway lived there, and I believe Derek Jeter. No, what's the other guy's name? Who's the guy who's now a sportscaster for Fox, who was on the Yankees?
Tom Brady.
No.
The Yankees.
No.
Alex Rodriguez?
Alex Rodriguez lived in, A-Rod lived in that building too. Very nice building. Anyway, the president's supposed to speak at 9:50. UNGA speeches tend to start on time in my experience, so maybe we'll dip into that at the very end. And then he's got a bunch of bilaterals, including with Zelensky, supposedly going to a reception at 7:20 tonight. I wouldn't be stunned if he skipped it. The First Lady's got a public event at 2 o'clock. A spokesman for the First Lady was just on Fox and Friends, a guy with long hair I've never seen before, and he was previewing her event, and we'll see how that goes. And then President and the First Lady go back to Washington after the reception, supposed to land at the White House at 11:10 p.m., which would give him just enough time to settle in and watch Kimmel. Kimmel, in theory, is on at 11:35, not in the Washington, D.C. area, so hopefully the president has some workaround there because the D.C. station is owned by Sinclair, which is not airing Kimmel. They're airing a local news. Nexstar, the other big local station owner, which had balked at airing Kimmel, has not said yet whether they will air. The two of them together own, 25% of all ABC stations? Some number like that, so not insignificant. won't air. And the show tapes earlier. It's not a live show, so we'll see if they put out any clips because neither Sean nor I would like to stay up till 11:35 tonight and watch that. JD Vance, don't know what he's up to today. Marco Rubio is in New York, and he is having UNGA meetings as well. House and Senate are out. Kamala Harris already on GMA. We're going to show you some of that. Is on The View. That is live at 11 o'clock on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. Wonder what she's doing between GMA and The View. That's a common time killer that many people have.
Maybe go for a walk in the park today.
Maybe. Yeah. Although again, we don't know who's protecting her. She doesn't have Secret Service. All right.
There's enough in the park right now. She'll be fine.
Yeah. All right. Here is
get in the park.
Here is again. I keep saying this. Little covered. Marco Rubio continues to have both the job, Secretary of State and National Security Advisor, and seems to be thriving. And here is the National Security Advisor, Secretary of State, and also what is he like, head of NASA? No, that's the other guy. Anyway, he's got other jobs too. Here's Marco Rubio on Fox and Friends previewing the UNGA events.
Well, I think one of the things the president's going to have to address and is going to address is the UN itself. And that is, why do we still have a UN? It has tremendous potential. The UN is an organization that has the potential to do some great things around the world, but it's not doing it. If you look at Russia and Ukraine, you have a war going on there. It's the president that's been carrying the burden of trying to bring it to an end. The UN is playing no role. If you look at what's happening in Gaza with Hamas and everything that's happened there with Israel taking them on, what role is the UN playing? None. We're going to try here, and even as close to home in the Western Hemisphere, in a place like Haiti, that's been overrun by gangs that control that country and has destabilized the region. The U.S. is asking for the UN to step up and play a very important role. We have a lot of support, but it looks like China might stand in the way of this effort to bring that about. The UN will play no role if they do that. So I think what the president's going to do is challenge the UN to find its meaning and its purpose and its utility as an organization, because it doesn't seem to be doing the job, and it's pretty good at spending a lot of money.
The UNGA speeches always get built up. I've covered many of them, some in person, mostly watching them on TV. Sean, what's the most memorable line from any president you can recall from UNGA? And you won't be able to name one, proving my point that no one remembers these. But can you name anything that ever happened at one of these that was memorable and that had an impact on the world?
He referred to Kim Jong-un as Little Rocket Man. I believe that's rather significant.
He did. Okay. Yeah, that's a good one. How about a second one, Sean, from any president?
Well, let's see. Now you've changed the rules.
Exactly.
Find one.
Yeah. So, Sean, if you were the White House communications director, and you might have been, and the president said, Sean, I want this speech to have a lasting legacy. I want to have a real world impact. What would you tell him to say?
I think what he's previewed already, going after these world institutions, the WTO, et cetera, and how they have failed to live up to their expectations, to their mission, is going to garner significant attention. And frankly, I think will probably become one of the most memorable speeches, because to sit in the UN and go after the UN's fecklessness and uselessness at this time, as the Secretary of State just previewed, I think is going to make significant news.
Okay. And what would the news, what specifically? Just Trump denounced Republican. America First Republican criticizes UN, or something more than that?
Well, I think that the devil's going to be in the detail. And so how far do you want to go on that spectrum? Do you want to literally talk about how it's failed, or do you want to talk about actual reforms you could make? I mean, the more detailed you get, the more critical you get, and the more that you lean forward as to either that we need to get out of the UN, or that you specifically name reforms that need to be enacted, that will determine how much attention you get.
Dan, do you expect the president to leave an indelible mark with this speech, or will it quickly be forgotten by 11:45?
Well, I think it'll be quickly forgotten, because part of the challenge is like what Marco Rubio just said. Well, one of the reasons they haven't moved on Israel is because we're blocking it. Like, we don't want the UN involved because they might not be 100% on Israel's side. So, I mean, the reality of the UN is people have their own politics, their own vested interests, and so they block, others from acting. I think the interesting thing is, I agree, Trump is going to trash the UN, he's going to trash all these world agencies. Of course, we've contributed to some of their failings. We're pulling money out, and the world is messy as Trump. I mean, I think it's not being given enough attention. The tariffs are a mixed bag right now. The world economy is not in a great place. Our own economy is not in a good place, which is why Trump wants rate cuts so desperately. What's happening in Ukraine is a mess. What's happening in Israel is a mess. And we seem to have zero strategy with China. So as he takes the world stage, I think a lot of the world is looking at him like, hey, big guy, it's a mess. And you don't seem to have any solutions.
Okay, let me ask you about the Zelensky meeting. Do either of you have high hopes for that?
No,
Sean?
he's not going to get
No.
tough on Russia.
No, I don't. The Zelensky one, I mean, to be honest with you, he's just hoping to keep the ball in play. I feel like if anyone's going to make Putin overplaying his hand is the only thing that matters at this point, as far as I'm concerned.
But he hasn't overplayed his hand because he's winning.
Yeah.
No, I think when you start to do the drones into Poland and things, that's starting to really overplay.
So are we going to help stop him?
I think that's where, like, you're going after Poland is not a smart idea.
It's only not a smart idea if we're going to do something. For 6 months, we keep saying it. Trump will not do anything. He's just going to talk. That's all he's going to do.
Okay. I'm surprised at the range of coverage that the president's Tylenol announcement got yesterday. Some organizations played it up big. It's barely covered in some other places. So going forward, Dan, do you think the president's announcement, where he went further than his own medical team in what the recommendation was, the recommendation from his own people, leaving aside people who say they don't believe the science, even his own people said people should, doctors, patients should be careful and judicious and prudent about how much Tylenol they take. Here's the Wall Street Journal headline. In targeting a common painkiller, Trump oversteps his own advisor's guidance on autism. The president's warning against Tylenol use for pregnant women and children went beyond the advice of his drug regulatory agency. Dan, do you think going forward this will have a big effect on Tylenol use in this country by pregnant women?
It'll have some, because there are lots of people, tens of millions, who will hear what the president say and follow his advice. I don't think you're going to hear much more about this, because I think his own political team knows that the data is really dangerous on the vaccine issue. You had Bill Cassidy coming out and saying, respectfully, where's the science to back up any of the things you said? Please put it out. That's Bill Cassidy. That is a Republican senator, in about the nicest way possible, saying there's no evidence of anything you two said, the other person being RFK. So they know this is a danger zone politically, but they need the RFK vote to stay engaged. So I don't think you're going to hear much. I think Democrats will make sure that you hear about this, though.
Sean, is this going to have a big impact?
I do. I think so. I mean, I flipped through all the morning shows this morning. Everybody was talking about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is that despite the headlines and the reflexive nature of most of the legacy media, when they actually put doctors on, they said, well, there is some such studies that suggest that this is a problem and da-da-da-da. So there is, again, I'm not a doctor, but I do think that what people should always do, and what the job of most of these government agencies is to do, is to give guidance to doctors. At the end of the day, regardless whether it's a vaccine or acetaminophen, consult with your doctor what's best for you. And the role of the government is to give doctors advice and knowledge. And so, at least in my flipping around and listening to the actual people that went to medical school, there's definitely some studies that suggest that there's a connection. There could be a connection. There might be some. So warning people about it, I think, is helpful. But at the end of the day, you should always seek an actual doctor's advice.
All right. Kamala Harris, talking to my colleagues here now. Apparently she's doing something live on TikTok. So if somebody could go see if we can find that and put it up, I'd like to see that. She's done 2 interviews, Rachel Maddow last night and GMA. And most distinctive to me, again, as someone who's as expert in selling books as anything I'm expert at, she's not doing a particularly good job of selling the book, in part because she's pulling her punches. When the questioners have asked her about the newsiest parts of the book, she's not backing up what she said in the book. She seems reluctant to repeat some of the accusations she's made. So, for instance, Rachel Maddow said, "I'm very disappointed that you suggested that the country wasn't ready to elect a black woman and a gay man and picking Pete Buttigieg. And she said, "Oh no, that's not really what I mean. What I mean is, I think it would have been tough." I mean, she didn't follow through. And then here's two examples from Good Morning America. First, she was asked about the phone call that she writes in the book that Joe Biden called her right before her debate with Donald Trump, and rather than just wishing her well, started to complain to her about his own grievances rather than tell the story. Here's what former Vice President Kamala Harris did on Good Morning America. Number 115, please.
He called me, and again, listen, this book, I am being candid in this book about,
but not in this
behind
interview.
the scenes, what happened, and in a way that I hope is helpful for people to understand what that all was. And part of that call that he made to me the afternoon before the debate was to wish me luck, but also to talk about something that was more in his interest than it was in mine, especially in the context of that time.
Dan, in the business,
context,
we call that a word salad. So she doesn't actually tell the story. She just kind of refers to the story, not a way to sell books. And here she is when asked about the question that she confronts to some extent in the book, which is her regret that she failed to raise the issue of the president's mental decline. Now, what she says in this interview is it's harder to run for president than to be president, which I can tell you makes no sense. Here's 116, please.
As we sit here today, do you think he would have been up for running the country for 4 more years?
Here's the distinction that I make. And having had the experience myself, it is one thing to have the capacity to govern. It is another thing to go through an election for president of the United States. So you are an athlete, you may appreciate this kind of metaphor. Running for president of the United States is like being in a marathon at a sprinter's pace with people throwing tomatoes at you every step you take. It is not for the lighthearted. It takes an incredible amount of endurance and stamina. And can you imagine doing it while you are also carrying literally the weight of the world as being president of the United States? So the distinction I make is about capacity to be president and what that election would require in a campaign, especially running against Donald Trump.
Yeah, and running against Trump, you had the big debate.
All right. Sean, what does the book tour so far tell you about her prospects of selling books and her prospects of leaving the door open to run for president?
Let me just say this. When I wrote my first book, my agent called me at one point during the draft and said, "Did that make you feel better?" Because I told a couple stories. And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Okay, in 5 years, do you want that story to be hanging out there?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "Then let's cut it." Like, this is the job of people around you, to read back what you write and say, are you prepared to back that up? Do you want that part of your legacy? And I cannot believe that they did this to her, that she was so naive to think that you could write this and no one would ask you, that you thought that you could attack a gay man for not being vice president and then go on an openly gay person's interview.
I love what you're saying, but just to clarify, she didn't attack him. She attacked the country. She attacked the voters.
No, that's her judgment. That's her.
Yeah.
So
But she
it is
didn't.
her.
She didn't.
She's
But she
saying
didn't
the country
attack.
wasn't
But she
ready.
didn't. But she didn't attack Pete Buttigieg. She said the country wouldn't vote for us. That's what she didn't attack him.
But again, it's still her judgment.
No, I understand. And
then
again,
you chose to go on Rachel Maddow,
Yeah.
her show, to lead off your book tour. You didn't think she was going to bring that up?
Yeah, I agree with you. And again, I think you framed it perfectly. Dan, how could the staff not have said, like, somebody should have said to her, these are the stories. If you want to own these and tell them in a vivid way to sell books, please. But if you're gonna say the equivalent of nothing specific comes to mind, or whatever she said on The View last year, like, don't put them in the book. It's ridiculous.
I think, I mean, look, she looks uncomfortable. She looks tentative. And what I see is she's heard the criticism and now she's trying to adjust, which is, again, part of her problem, which is she is so finger in the wind. She's so cautious. She's so tentative as just kind of a general operating style, that it's amazing that a book that you wrote, that you're putting out, that's part of your future, and you are spooked 48 hours into it or whatever.
You know what's funny,
week
as you say this, Dan, I go back to Bob Dole, Mitt Romney, right? So Dole goes on, what was it, Mark Letterman? And Mitt has this documentary come out, and people go, "Where was that candidate?" Right?
Yeah.
They reflect on it and go, "God, that if they only." She actually reminds you why you didn't vote for her. She's like, you're like, "Oh, good. I'm glad I still didn't vote for her." These other guys, people go, "I wish I had known that," because they seem more likable, more relatable. She reinforces why people didn't like her post running.
Well,
Yeah,
and I also think that she wants to run for president. And after that election, most Democrats bit their tongue. And I think, Sean, to your point, now that this is out, is all these Democrats are now coming out and they're just like, Jesus Christ, what are you doing? But she still wants to run.
It's number 2 on Amazon currently. And again, there are not a lot of big books out this week. So she doesn't need to sell a lot to become a number 1 on the nonfiction list. But my question is, who's buying this book? Are Democrats who love her buying it?
I did. I want to read it today.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, people are going to read it.
Can you send it to me when you're done? I love a good political book, but I can't possibly.
Dan, do you buy hard copy books?
Yeah, it'll be up
Oh,
here.
I love a hard copy. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was going to say, Exhibit A.
All right, we'll keep tracking that, and I'll have excerpts from her sound bites from her appearance on The View today on Two-Way Tonight later.
I just real quick, do we think rating her performance right now, A to F? How do you think she's going to do on The View?
I would say C minus.
C, yeah, I was just going to say.
I was going C minus. I'm with you. To me, I mean,
does Joe Biden speak up by the end of the week?
I just
and Joe Biden speak up by the end of the week.
Someone's going to speak up on Joe Biden's behalf, I believe, by the end of the week. I don't think it'll be Joe Biden. I will say that I'll go back to what Bill Clinton said about Mitt Romney. It applies to Kamala Harris. That person should not have a job that requires them to speak in public. All right. Kimmel. Again, he's expected, all the reports are that he's going to address the situation tonight. Knowing Bob Iger a little bit, I believe that they have some understanding that he will be at least somewhat conciliatory. He's not going to come on and just blast everything. I think he'll be somewhat conciliatory. But I think he'll also, as a student of Kimmel, I think he'll also be a little bit defiant and talk about the First Amendment. The left is saying that Kimmel being put on represents a great victory. Here's Don Winslow, 112. Dan, who's Don Winslow?
I have no idea until you showed this to me earlier.
Okay, he's some liberal activist. He's from like the Paul Begala school of sharp elbows. The only reason Disney is bringing, this is on X, the only reason Disney is bringing Kimmel back is because the American people stood up, called out the executives by name, Disney stock plummeted, and Disney lost a lot of money. Get it? That's the playbook for the next 3 years of Trump. You must be louder than him. Dan, to what extent is Mr. Winslow's analysis correct about what happened?
Well, I do think that people standing up did, the pendulum did kind of move back a little bit. But look, the free market's going to speak here. And I think in Disney's attempt to try to curry favor and win new customers, they kind of almost fired their existing customer base, which is progressive. I mean, that's what Jimmy Kimmel is. That's what his show's audience is. So I think we'll see how long Kimmel lasts here. His contract is up here pretty soon anyway, which is another story that's kind of a subtext of all of this. But look, do I think that the FCC chair and Republicans speaking up got him suspended? Yes. Do I think Democrats speaking up and screaming helped to bring him back? I do.
Sean, do you agree with that analysis?
No. So here's what I think is ridiculous. In any crisis, the option is, you acknowledge regret or are somewhat conciliatory. Kimmel hasn't said a word, not one. He has not apologized. He lied. He spread misinformation. This wasn't an opinion gone wrong. He actually is on the public airways. ABC is a broadcast station. They have an FCC obligation to not spread false and misleading information. And he lied to the American people.
Right.
And he incited, actually, he stoked the flames of fear.
But we're trying to be forward-looking.
Hold on. I am. Yeah. But here's my point, is that for him to go back on tonight and do this is going to further divide. And if I were TP USA tonight, I would target every single advertiser that goes on that show and ask for a nationwide boycott, because I will. I'll
Could-
find out the names.
couldn't-
I'll put them out there. Because
couldn't
this
you
is what this is what we need to do on the right. This is ridiculous. He has not said a damn word. And for Chuck Schumer and all of these folks to come out and applaud him for what? Because at the end of the day, right now, then that means that they are in agreement with what he said. So he is further exciting the right. And I, for one, will not watch him, but I will make sure that I call out every single person that advertises on his show from now until he leaves.
What if he apologized? Couldn't you find it in your heart to forgive him?
So you only apologized 6 days later when you got back on? What has he been? He doesn't have Twitter. He doesn't have a statement. He doesn't have a PR machine. He has sat around and done nothing except for worry about himself since this happened. We've had a funeral. Erica Kirk had the courage to stand there and forgive the guy who killed him. And Jimmy Kimmel couldn't muster 2 seconds to say, "Hey, I was sorry."
But why can't you follow her example and forgive Kimmel if he apologizes?
Because it's not my job to forgive him, because what he did was wrong. And he chose not to make a difference. You can only give someone forgiveness once they ask for it. And he hasn't asked.
But maybe he will tonight. Why are you prejudging what he's going to say?
Because he is not, Mark, it's not like he's been in a cave. He has sat back and chose not to do anything.
Well, that is, come on now.
Oh, it's not. Wait, hold on. What do you mean, come on now? When
Sean,
he chose not to do anything, he has chosen not to clean this up.
Sean, let me finish. What I was going to say is, you work for a guy who understood really well the big reveal, right? So perhaps tonight he is going to do that, knowing it will get big ratings, right? I mean, come on now. You and I both know that that game plan would be smart business if you're trying to sell your show. I also want to just say, though, I understand the idea that he's on a public airwaves. So you're saying, hey, you say something that's not true, that is different than cable. But if the standard is saying things on TV that are not true and stoking tension, I'm going to keep saying this, almost all of cable news would be canceled.
And it's cable.
I mean, all right, hold on.
I hear you, but your argument is stoking flames and not telling the truth.
Hold on.
What's that?
More years.
Hold on. Stop playing that. Stop
here's
playing
the
that.
distinction that
Hold
I
on.
make.
Stop playing that.
And having had
Hold
the
on.
experience
Stop
myself.
playing that. Guys, stop playing that.
Kamala.
Stop playing it. We'll have full coverage of Jimmy Kimmel's statement tonight on the morning meeting tomorrow. All right. So UNGA is going on in New York. We got 2 more topics to get to and then your questions. So please raise your hand if you'd like in on the conversation. UN General Assembly. Generally, my view, having lived in New York for a long time, is that from the General Assembly week through New Year's Eve, you don't want to be in a cab in Manhattan. There's just no way to get around. And that's true for everybody because there's gridlock. And it's especially complicated because the president lives at 56th and Madison. And no, Madison.
No, it's Fifth Avenue. The
front
Fifth
Avenue.
Right on
Sorry,
Fifth Avenue. Yep.
Sorry, Fifth Avenue. The building goes over. Yeah, exactly. So Fifth Avenue and 56 to the UN, which is west, east, and south. It can block a lot of traffic, and you could be trying to get to work, and even if you're walking, you can have trouble. But if you're trying to get in a car, so here's a visitor to New York City, a guy from France this morning trying to get to his job. Happens to be Macron. And they won't let him go through. And here, I haven't seen this, but I'm relying on this great tweet. Here's Macron, can't get through. So he calls Trump to ask Trump to clear him through. Take a look.
I'm sorry, I'm the president. I'm really sorry. It's just that everything's in frozen right now. There's a motorcade coming right now. I'm sorry.
If you don't see it, let me cross. How are you? Guess what? I'm waiting in the street because everything is frozen for you.
So Trump tells him to walk. Trump says, sorry, just walk. So Macron takes Trump's advice and walks to where he's going.
A nice night in New York last night.
Yeah, last night. So, guys, would the best title for this video be A, C'est la vie, or B, Mon Dieu? Dan? Who's she going with?
They love you.
Say la vie. Sean?
It's just, how do you say sad in French?
It's a good question. Somebody look in Google. I don't know how to say sad. Anyway, like I said, if you're coming to New York,
That's crazy.
If you're coming to New York between now and New Year's Eve, I recommend city bike or walking. Don't try to take.
And part of the problem is all the world leaders are in all the different hotels. So
Yeah.
like where
It's a mess.
certain people are,
It's a
they're
mess.
closed everywhere.
It's a mess.
Either a DS or a C. I mean, he should have had a Department of State or Secret Service details.
Yes. All right. So Trump has not had a meeting or really almost any conversations, I think, with Schumer and Jeffries the whole term. But now that they've got to figure out what to do about a government shutdown, widely reported that on Thursday he'll meet with the Democrats. I think the Republicans are going too, but it'll be the first meeting. And let's do a little play acting. Dan, if you're preparing Schumer and Jeffries for this meeting, knowing that there's a substantive series of questions, but also just the optics of the photo op. We've seen in these situations, sometimes one side clearly gets the best of it. How should they handle the substance and optics of meeting with President Trump, assuming whether there's a photo op or they come to the stakeout after or both? How would you advise them to handle that?
I mean, I would just say to stay one, look for areas where you guys can agree and stay focused on the ACA credit. I think the problem is if they walk in with this menu of what's like $1 trillion of overriding of cuts, I think it gives Trump the green light to smack him around, and he's going to have the public on, behind him because it's so unreasonable. So,
Right.
I mean, my thing would be keep it simple, stupid. Just go in there and say, look, we can work together to do this. It's millions of Americans. It's a lot of people in red states. Let's do this.
Sean, how would you prepare the president?
Well, first of all, I would have told him he should have never agreed to this meeting. I
Yeah.
cannot actually
Why?
really.
He's
Because
elevating
the idea
them.
that Chuck Schumer said you owe it to us to have a meeting. He didn't like. You should never take demands and then allow them to acquiesce.
Why do you think he agreed then?
Because Trump he loves this stuff. This is him. Like he loves the idea of doing this and smacking Chuck around. I think that to Dan's point, if Schumer can restrain himself, which is a big if, and stay focused on health care and say, Mr. President, this is an American issue. We should all do this. There's a shot he could do something. I think it's a bank shot, but it gives them one opportunity, which is if you had just never given them the meeting, you wouldn't have to worry about it.
Will there
and
be
Mark, I think what the Democrats are going to say is rate notices go out November 1st.
Yeah.
And they're already going to be the largest increase in almost 15 years. Sir, if we don't do this, millions more people are going to see even higher rates.
Right.
And if that's the soundbite, he has a problem. If we need to undo all this other stuff, he's going to laugh.
All right. Some series of yes, no questions. Will there be a photo op of the meeting? Yes or no? Sean?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Will the Democratic leaders come to the stakeout afterwards? Yes or no? Sean?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes, immediately. Yep.
Okay. I think there's not a zero chance. This meeting's supposed to be on Thursday. I think there's a non-trivial chance that this meeting doesn't happen, by the way.
Well, that's why that's why I said what I think that there's a little bit of this is the idea.
But Mark, if it gets canceled, that's not a good look for Trump.
I don't think enough people knew about it.
Yeah, and also depends on who cancels it. Trump could put on conditions for the meeting that causes the Democrats to cancel. We shall see. And lastly, will the Republican leadership be there too? Sean?
Yeah.
That's the most important question. And I don't know because I think they should insist on it.
Yes, that's it. I think yes, they will be.
Which is the better relationship now? Thune, Schumer, or Johnson, Jeffries? Which is the better working relationship now?
I always feel like the Senate has a much more clever feel. Like
typically they do, but I believe in this case the answer is Jeffries Johnson.
I have a question. Will JD Vance and Susie and everyone and Stephen Miller be in the room?
Yes.
Oh yeah,
100%.
But they what? That's funny.
Stephen wouldn't miss it.
That wasn't the case when he met with Chuck. Like But
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
I think he walks in and Trump goes, "Go full Zelensky on him, JD."
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Now it's time for your questions. Please, Melissa, break stride a little bit and unmute. Thank you for joining, everybody. Tell us where you are, what's on your mind for Sean and Dan, and we're delighted to have you here. Melissa, what's point A and point B on this walk?
My house and my house.
Yeah. And what are you gonna? Where do you live?
South Carolina.
Yeah.
And
Where
so it's
in
finally
South Carolina?
Cool enough to walk.
Awesome. Where do you live in South Carolina?
The Grand Strand. The
Awesome.
Grand Strand.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, welcome in. Thank you for being part of Two Way. Tell us what's on your mind.
Well, first time ever joining Two Way and got called on. That was really great. So I'm an OBGYN, so I feel like I have something to contribute to today's conversation.
Yes, ma'am. Take your time.
And
Thank you for your service.
thank you.
Do you have do you have your own practice?
Yeah.
And do your patients take Tylenol? Do
I'm
your
actually
patients?
opening my own practice right now.
Yeah. Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I'm opening my own practice now, so I can
Amazing.
spend more time.
Do your patients take Tylenol typically?
Oh, no.
Many do, and almost all of them ask that question, or
Yeah.
should I take Tylenol?
Right.
And if most people may not be aware of this, but the lawyer commercials have been playing about this for years. I mean, like at least 5 or 6 years. And so I had done a literature deep dive on this back when I first heard the lawyer commercials, and underwhelmed because it's very hard to draw causal links in medicine. But more importantly, I looked again and there's not much new. And I think the problem with any of the broad statements that people make about this is, one, you should really discuss this with your doctor. That's the best person to get advice from. And two, what we did during COVID was we refused to say, we are not sure, but out of an abundance of caution, maybe we avoid some of these things. And I think had they maybe taken that approach yesterday, which was to say more of, we're not 100% sure, there's some questionable links here. So we're going to, maybe get a little bit more evidence on the topic and do some more studies.
Yep.
I think that would have been better. That being said, the strongest evidence that they have on their side, and this was a link from the HHS, and it's a study I'd read before, was they looked at umbilical cord samples. Sorry. 20 minutes. Just finished my third mile. But they looked at umbilical cord Tylenol samples, and if you had higher rates of that, there was a link between ADHD and autism there. The question that should come up is, who has high levels of Tylenol in their umbilical cords? And the answer would be people who had fevers while they're in labor, because
People who
most
have
of the
what?
time,
Can you repeat
that's
that?
when people were getting
Fever.
Tylenol.
Fever while they're in labor.
People who have fever during labor.
Got it.
So, and an intrauterine infection called chorioamnionitis. I absolutely could believe that there is a link between an intrauterine infection and a link between a neurodevelopmental change. So I think that that's something we should investigate. Who takes Tylenol during pregnancy? Women with fevers. Is there a link between fever in early pregnancy and neurodevelopmental change? I think that's something we should actually investigate. But the only way to answer the question, can you take Tylenol in pregnancy, is to get a couple thousand women, randomize them to Tylenol or no Tylenol, and look and see what happens 3 to 6 years later.
Yeah.
Does anyone know anyone's going to sign up for that study?
Well, the president says it's the Amish who've signed up for the study because they don't take Tylenol and they have lower incidences of autism.
But they also have lower instances of soda consumption.
Yeah. Let's peer review this with our in-house doctor, Dr. John. Dr. John, what do you think of what Melissa said? And we'll probably want to bring some folks in to ask you 2 questions.
Thank you, Melissa. That was fantastic.
Grateful to you both for being here. John, thoughts on what Melissa said or questions for Melissa?
Yeah, no, totally. I agree with everything she said. Even in the big, new, it's not even that new, like she said, the group of studies that the authors looked at on the recent, not even meta-analysis, because the data were not homogeneous enough to even do a meta-analysis, which is what you do when you gather a bunch of studies and try to find an outcome. 27 of them showed a possible association, 13 of them didn't. I think everything she said is right. You don't know whether it's the fevers, which fevers and inflammation, it's a neuroinflammatory process that could certainly be neurotoxic, or is it the potentially toxic metabolite of Tylenol that is potentially neurotoxic? We do not know. And I think the danger here that I am most afraid of is we have taken a public health approach in the last few decades, really, but certainly in the last few years, of the pendulum swinging to pure population health over individualized risk and benefit. Problem is, during COVID, we saw that the guidance given was not based on science. It was based on opinion, but presented as fact. So now to have that press conference yesterday when the Wall Street Journal was completely right, that Donald Trump absolutely went out over his skis, said things that his own science team behind him were not prepared to say, that only minimizes trust more when the whole goal right now needs to be to reestablish trust. As of January 2024, only 40% of people trust in doctors. And yesterday did not move the needle to help that. It only perpetuates the problem because now nobody will really trust either side. And that is so devastating. I would encourage everybody, last thing, read Dr. Macary's two most recent books, The Price We Pay and Blind Spots, from either side of the aisle here. Read those books and tell me if he is a partisan hack or an unqualified scientist. He should have been leading that press conference yesterday. He would have presented it with the nuance, honesty, and truth that people are so desperate for, and they deserve. And this is like so complicated and nuanced, and people are desperate for answers, like we saw with the two wonderful callers yesterday, in the morning and the evening, non-partisan, non-hyper-partisan people, parents out there trying to find somebody that they can trust. And that's what we need.
All right. So glad that both doctors are here. Let's get some questions. I know at least two of the folks I've called up here are going to want to ask about this. We'll start with one of the great MAHA moms of this platform, Diane. Diane, welcome in. Opportunity to ask Melissa and John questions about this. Go ahead.
Okay, about this topic, I guess what I would say is if there are risks associated with any intervention, I would like to be presented with what that is. I have had 2 pregnancies since the lawyer commercial started, and I have been repeatedly reassured that Tylenol was completely safe. Completely safe. When we're doing informed consent and having these nuanced conversations, like Dr. Niconchuk is saying, like, you can't just present something as fact if there is a question about it, because I would rather have sore feet and suffer a little bit. And I've had the choreo with my first child. That was a complicated delivery. So I understand that there are instances where Tylenol is absolutely necessary. But these nuanced conversations, I think, need to be completely science-based. And if there are risks or we don't know, that's what the doctors in the office should say.
Yeah, thank you, Diane. Melissa responded, and then Melinda, if you can unmute, that'd be great because we want to go to you next. Go ahead, Melissa.
So I completely agree. And I think too much of the way we do medicine is you can't do this, you must do that. And that's not the way that we should practice. And the #1 pregnancy book that I recommend to everybody is Emily Oster's Expecting Better. And for people who are familiar with her, she's an economist, not an OBGYN. And so when she was told you can't have coffee when you're pregnant, she wanted to know why. What are the risks? Show me the studies, show me the evidence if I can cut out more cups of coffee a day. And that is how we should approach medicine, is that every choice has risks and benefits, and we should be willing to say what they are from both sides of things.
Okay, Melinda, go ahead. Thank you, Diane. Melinda, go ahead.
Yes. So I guess my MAHA mom story starts during COVID when I was pregnant with my first, and I actually did lose my job because I did not get the COVID vaccine during pregnancy, despite having, welcome to my babies, despite having notes from my doctor and everything.
Melinda, are we seeing all 4?
How many?
They're all 4.
All 4, right? Because every time we widen out, we add a kid, but that's it. It's just 4.
There are just 4.
Okay. Go ahead.
I'd have to go landscape.
And I think the comment that I have is that when it was first announced that the COVID vax was not going to be recommended for pregnant women, there were some people who asked, like, oh, do you feel vindicated? And my response was no, because Donald Trump saying it and RFK saying it is not going to change any of the opinions of the people who put pressure on me.
Thank you.
At the time. And so we coming out with the Tylenol stuff yesterday, nobody who
Maybe quiet for a few
nobody's going
minutes.
to change their mind other than like because it's coming from this administration without the solid science. So basically, like, if this is going to have an impact, it has to come from physicians on both sides of the political aisle, people who are unbiased, and it has to have very solid studies. Yes, it has to have very solid studies where people are going to change their minds because the people who are saying it aren't going to be that influenced.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Melissa, then John.
Melinda, do each
Thank
of
you.
your kids
Go-
want to say hello?
You want to say hello?
Hi, everybody.
Be quiet, please.
Melinda, if you have the capacity, rattle off their names.
This is Eleanor, Blaze, Ryder, and Cade.
Awesome.
For just a few minutes.
Amazing. Melissa, you missed out on high volume with Melinda. You could have made a fortune. Melissa, and then John, comments on what Melinda said, please.
So I think that again during COVID we gave up on individualized risk assessment for patient care. You look pretty young, you look pretty healthy, like maybe you didn't have risk factors for COVID. I'll share a personal story. I was also pregnant during COVID before the vaccine came out. And I am not young, of advanced maternal age, and maybe have a little bit of high blood pressure, and also didn't have paid maternity leave. And so I took the COVID vaccine when I was pregnant because of those things. And yeah, not having paid maternity leave actually played a huge deal in that because I also don't have any paid sick leave. So we should all be able to make those recommendations. But I also think when it concerns many things about the vaccine, like, it went way too far in the, like, everybody has to have this, everybody has the same risk. No, like, if you're over 65 or have comorbidities, your risk was hugely different. And depending on where in that process you were, like, you may or may not have had any risks, like significant risk. If you'd already had COVID and recovered, it was a huge mistake that we didn't count natural immunity, and you didn't need a vaccine to make you any safer. So,
John,
yeah.
thank you for that, Melissa. John.
Yeah, amen to everything that you just said. This isn't conspiracy. Dr. Fauci himself has come out since and said, I didn't think that the American people could understand nuance enough, so we just said everybody should get it. Even in the moment, he knew that wasn't necessarily the most accurate or best advice. So as soon as you say that, it's like crying wolf, right? So now every other time you say something, people are going to be hesitant to say, wait, which one is this? Is this the one that you're saying because we're too dumb or because it's true?
Yeah.
And I have genuinely very close friends on both sides of this. And I see what happens with them when new information comes out. And I get so frustrated because on the other hand, last week with the ACIP meeting, it got presented by the media to mostly the left-wing bubble as this is the end of the world. There are only 9 countries in the world that use the combined MMRV vaccine. Only 12 EU countries even recommend varicella at all, right? So to present it as this is the end of science, when it's really kind of like this is sort of what most of the rest of the world is doing, seems to be returning to an approach of saying you people are too dumb to understand this. Yeah. And that's not an approach that makes any sense to me.
John,
Alexander, go ahead, John. Sean.
I want to just tweak real quick. On the one other vaccine that got a lot of attention is the Hep B, especially among children. And the doctors that I've talked to say that statistically, giving it to a young kid whose mother doesn't have a predisposition doesn't make sense. And yet this morning on the Today Show, Ann Compton said that President Trump made comments about it without evidence. I've heard evidence. So where when we talk about the Hep B specifically, Melissa but John first, please. Yeah. Where do you come down on that one?
It's perhaps the most perfectly distilled example of what we've been talking about population health risk versus individualized risk benefit, right? So I don't want to go into conspiracy or demonization of anybody because I think the vast majority of people that are day-to-day people working in public health view it as what about, and I'm trying to be as peace, love, and understanding as I can. They view it as the least of these, the moms who don't have prenatal care, the moms that can't say, because of fear of domestic abuse that, perhaps I was exposed, but I don't want to say it right now because my partner said, right. There are examples where it might make sense to say, all right, we're just going to give it to everybody to help a few of these women out there who might be in that situation. But for the vast, vast majority, it should be an option to say, what is your risk? And so I think there's a way to approach this conversation without demonizing anybody. That's not to say there aren't perverse incentives for the pharmaceutical industry, because there are. But if you have, the potential for a Hep B negative mom, or for a child to get Hep B, right? So we're talking about 1 in 7-ish million versus 1 in 1 million, even for the risk of an adverse event, right there. There's a really, really valid conversation to be had about why are we doing this? What were the incentives that drove this decision? Were they in true patient interest? Or was there something, more perverse at play? Not even necessarily, profoundly immoral, but just following the incentives of a broken healthcare system. And I think those are the questions we need to ask.
Melissa, thank you, John. Melissa.
Yeah, so totally agree with everything John said. By the way, also, those books by Marty McCary are both excellent. I've read both of them. They're both excellent. So this is something that really, really I want to stress. I've been an OBGYN for since 2010. I have met 2 people born in this country of reproductive age who have hepatitis B. There may have been a time where hepatitis B was a big problem. It was before I was in medicine. The entire time I've been in medicine, we haven't seen that. We screen everybody for Hep B. If you come in with no prenatal care, I probably have a Hep B screen on you before you deliver. It only takes a few hours to get it. So we're screening everybody, and we've done such a good job with the vaccination campaign that maybe we don't need to have that same recommendation anymore. I also do want to say, if you have hepatitis B as a mom and you deliver and your baby gets a dose of Hep B vaccine and a dose of Hep B immune globulin within 4 hours of delivery, the chance of vertical transmission is almost 0. So if we're doing appropriate screening, then we don't need to worry about delivery room vaccines. If we're not able to do that, if you live in a place where you can't get that kind of turnaround on it, then maybe it still is a worthwhile recommendation. But, this is certainly, to me, one that can be deferred for at least some number of months. Both my kids got it after their first birthday. And the second one got it as soon as he did, because he could not attend daycare after 18 months of age without it.
Right. Okay. Hold
That didn't
on.
make any sense to me.
Okay. Thank you both, doctors. Just to reset here, the president, we're waiting for him to come speak at the UN. And I'm told MSNBC is reporting that the president has in fact canceled the Thursday meeting with Schumer and Jeffries. Alexandra, did you want to ask about this topic or say something or something else?
Well, seeing how we're on this, I wanted to ask Dr. John, and Melissa said that you were pregnant during the COVID rollout of the vaccine. Is that correct?
I was.
Okay. How many vaccines are they giving? How many vaccines does a newborn get nowadays?
So the only newborn vaccine, in the delivery room vaccine, is the hepatitis B. When they're 2 months of life, they get a Tdap, a Hib, which is influenza B, and they get one more. It's three shots, and then that's at 2, 4, and 6 months of age on the current schedule.
So they are given a hepatitis B vaccine in the delivery room?
That's the current recommendation.
And how do y'all feel about that as doctors, or as OBGYN and as a doctor?
If a mom is hepatitis B negative, then it should be the mom's choice, whether she wants to do it then or come back and potentially get it later. I do think that, if you ever want to work in healthcare, or my husband worked in industrial maintenance, he had to have a Hep B verified vaccine. So I think that the hepatitis B vaccine is great. I would definitely consider getting it later on. Both my kids, they've had it now. They're 4 and 8. They've both had it now. But we could do it at a time with my older where there was nothing else on the schedule. There's a gap in there in the schedule where they don't get much. And so we did his Hep B vaccine series then.
Isn't it true that by the time they are even susceptible to get hepatitis B, the vaccine doesn't even work anymore at that point, correct?
Actually, that's not true. So you do want to confirm it with titers, because not everybody's vaccine takes. But once you confirm the titer, then you can pretty much be assured that you're good.
All right, ladies, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we've got a little bit of news to get to, and super grateful to both doctors for coming on. You two don't disagree about very much, so in that way you're less than ideal guests, but it's nice to have a consensus, which is also positive. So thanks to Diane and to Alexandra and to the two doctors. Really grateful to you.
Well, thank you, and I love Dr. John.
Yeah, he's America's
We're going to
doctor.
see this kind of conversation.
He's America's doctor. John, thank you. And Melissa, thank you. I hope you'll both come back regularly.
Thank you.
So the president's cancellation of the meeting on Thursday with Schumer and Jeffries came in the form of one of the longer Truth Social posts I've seen him do in a while. I'll read a little bit of it to you.
And this is why I was just laughing, by the way, not at our guest.
Yeah, understood. After reviewing the details of the unserious and ridiculous demands made by the minority radical left Democrats in return for their votes to keep our thriving country open, I've decided that no meeting with the congressional leaders could possibly be productive. They're threatening to shut down the government of the United States unless they can have over $1 trillion in new spending to continue, blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Oh, no, it's long. It's long. I couldn't read the whole thing. I use up all the time. These radical left views and policies is what allowed me to win the presidential election, including all 7 swing states and popular vote in an historic landslide. There's a lot of all caps here I'm not highlighting. Then he brings up transgender, blah, blah, blah. Otherwise, it will just be another long and brutal slog through their radicalized quicksand. To the leaders of the Democratic Party, the ball is in your court. I look forward to meeting with you when you become realistic about the things that our country stands for. And then, inadvertently quoting Spike Lee, he says, "Do the right thing!" ! Sean, where does that leave us?
I just want when he verbalizes this to go $1 trillion.
Exactly.
I think it leaves us with a shutdown that's probably unequivocally going to happen. The question is for how long? Because now he clearly, I think the discussion between the staff and Speaker Johnson was, hey, this is not going to end well.
Dan, besides congratulating me on knowing that the meeting was going to be canceled, what else do you have to say?
No, I think the question for Democrats now is, do they pivot off of this like $1 trillion, undo the big, beautiful bill, and just focus on that ACA extension? It splits Republicans. What are you doing?
By the way, what we're missing though is the two-step process. There's the short term, which every Democrat has argued in the past for a short-term clean CR, which I think Republicans are missing the boat on this. We should be saying, we're giving you exactly what you offered, and here's the 50 times that you did it.
Right.
And saying, great. But then we're almost getting to the second discussion first, which is where the Republicans are missing a messaging point. Because if they just pivoted back to, we're just talking about a clean CR to continue negotiating, they'll win on that.
Right. Okay.
I just want to keep saying it. Healthcare starts November 1st.
Yep. You're right. All right. Lots to preview. Sean, what do you have tonight? Your program.
By the way, one other quick thing that's coming up that I want to make sure we're on the farmers in China is going to be massive. What's happening right now? Crops are coming through and they've got no market to go to because of China. So you're going to have Dan talks about ACA, but I'm telling you, the looming battle in agriculture is going to be something that suddenly becomes an issue that nobody saw coming, and we're on.
And they're not buying soybeans.
And will also require 60 votes. In the Senate. Sean, what do you have tonight?
2 things. One, Monica Page, she's TPS, Turning Point USA. She's going to come on talking about what they're doing. They had their big first event last night. Michael Knowles, University of Minnesota. They announced a big lineup. Tucker Carlson, Glenn Beck, a bunch of folks. So obviously get the latest from Turning Point. And then Dan, I'm interested to know if you know our second guest, a guy named Mike Nellis.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, he's all over the place.
Mike Nellis, Democrat fundraiser, senior advisor to Kamala Harris. He's coming on to talk about her book.
Right. Okay. Tons going on. So let me run through this quickly. First of all, next up, drops later today. My guests are Ben Ferguson and Meghan McCain, and my reported monologue is on the reaction to the reaction of the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Michael Moynihan is taping his program today live on YouTube, live on two-way at 4 o'clock today. Airs at 7 on YouTube. Michael's guest, Mike Pesca of The Gist, join Michael at 4 today, and then watch it at 7 if you miss it at 4. 6 o'clock, Kristen Davison amongst those who will join me on two-way tonight. At noon, I'll be on with Megyn Kelly. You can watch me there. The three of us will be back tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. And then again, a reminder, if you want to ask questions about the economy or personal finance, join me and David Bonson tomorrow, 24th of September, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, for a special conversation for two-way community members on the economy. Go to twoway.tv/TPBG, the Bonson Group, to register to join us at 1 o'clock tomorrow. Gentlemen, take a nap this afternoon so everybody's seen Kimmel, although we'll show extensive highlights. And don't forget, while he'll discuss it at the top of the show, he'll make little jokes about it throughout. I almost can guarantee that. So you need to commit 11:35 to 12:35 if you want to be in the know. Don't expect us to watch for you. Thank you all for watching and being part of Two-Way. Loved having the two doctors on and all the great questions. Sorry we didn't get to others on other topics, but that's what tonight is for. See you at 6. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much.